At a noble ballroom, women whispered about Parashadi's marriage. They spoke of her powerful in-laws, her cold husband, and the terrifying Lapillian family. Everyone pitied her. After all, who wouldn't suffer after marrying into a family like that? But before Parashadi could even respond, a handsome man suddenly appeared behind her and wrapped his arms around her. "I found you, my angel." The room froze. The man was none other than Grand Duke Thirdio Lapillian, the very person everyone described as cold and distant. As if that wasn't shocking enough, more members of the Lapillian family arrived one after another. His sister Saoirse rushed over and hugged Parashadi. The children eagerly gathered around her. The entire family treated her as if she were the center of their world. Then came the most unbelievable sight of all. Grand Duchess Gloria, the woman feared by nobles across the empire, walked straight to Parashadi and offered to grant any wish she desired. Land, money, anything. The crowd watched in amazement. Nobody could understand why the feared Lapillian family was so devoted to a single woman. And honestly, neither could Parashadi. This was the story of a woman everyone thought would be miserable after marriage. Instead, she ended up with in-laws who were completely obsessed with her. After her parents passed away, her boyfriend Schiff, her stepmother, and her stepsister Reina stayed by her side. They were the people she trusted most. Until the night she died. Unable to move or speak, Parashadi listened as the three calmly discussed her murder. The curse killing her had been planned from the start. Schiff admitted he never loved her. He had only married her because Reina wanted him to. Her stepmother only cared about the inheritance left behind by Parashadi's father. As the three waited for her death, Parashadi finally realized the truth. Everything had been a lie. The people she trusted most had betrayed her. With her final breath, she swore she would never forgive them. Then she died. But when Parashadi opened her eyes again, she was alive. At first, she thought it was a dream. Yet everything around her was exactly as it had been before her death. The same people, the same events, the same smiles. And when Schiff appeared carrying the same flowers and ring he once used to propose, Parashadi understood. She had returned to the past. Back to the day before her life was destroyed. Given a second chance, Parashadi immediately rejected Schiff. But that alone wasn't enough. She still didn't know how the curse worked. She couldn't protect her inheritance. And there was nothing stopping her enemies from trying to kill her again. She needed time. She needed protection. Most importantly, she needed someone powerful enough to stand against the people plotting her death. That's when her eyes landed on the most powerful man in the empire. Grand Duke Thirdio Lapillian. Walking straight toward him, Parashadi made a decision that would change everything. "Your Grace, I've come to make an offer. A 1-year marriage proposal." Parashadi's only hope was Grand Duke Thirdio Lapillian. Years ago, when the Empire's war against the Kingdom of Schwartz turned into a disaster, Thirdio personally entered the battlefield with his knights. The war ended almost immediately. The Empire celebrated him as a hero. But the blood-covered Duke returned home without attending a single celebration. From that day on, people gave him a new name, the Bloodthirsty War Fiend. And now, that very man sat across from Parashadi. Unfortunately, he immediately rejected her proposal. When Parashadi revealed that her family planned to kill her and steal her inheritance, Thirdio dismissed her concerns and ordered her to leave. But Parashadi refused to give up. Desperate, she grabbed his arm. A tiny scratch appeared on his hand. Blood slowly trickled from the wound. Parashadi quickly apologized, but she wasn't ready to abandon her last chance. As the Duke turned to leave again, she stopped him. She revealed something she shouldn't have known. The Emperor was desperately trying to marry him to one of the imperial princesses. A very young princess. In her previous life, Parashadi remembered seeing the princess in tears while Thirdio looked equally miserable. The marriage benefited the Emperor, not the Duke. So Parashadi offered him another option. Marry her for 1 year. After that, they would divorce and go their separate ways. For the first time, Thirdio stopped walking. But instead of accepting, he simply corrected her. "It isn't the 7th princess. It's the 4th. Then he turned away again. Panic gripped Parashadi. If she lost Thirdio, she would lose the only person powerful enough to protect her from the people trying to kill her. Then suddenly, her chest tightened. Her heartbeat exploded inside her ears. The same sensation she felt before her death returned. Parashadi was certain she had died again. The pain was exactly the same. Her vision went dark. Her heartbeat stopped. And yet, she woke up. Rain poured from the sky as terrified witnesses screamed and ran away. Some called her a ghost. Others called her a witch. Confused and covered in mud, Paris Shady quickly realized something even more disturbing. Someone had already buried her. Standing nearby was Grand Duke Thirdio Lapillion. At first, she thought he had tried to kill her. But when he helped her out of the grave, it became clear he believed she was already dead. Later, Paris Shady demanded an explanation. Instead of answering, the Duke showed her the small cut she had accidentally left on his hand. Then he cut himself again and grabbed her. Moments later, Paris Shady suffered the same agonizing symptoms. Her heartbeat went wild. Her body collapsed. And once again, she appeared to die. Yet once again, she woke up alive. For the second time. This time, the Duke finally explained. Their blood was poisonous. Just a few drops could kill an ordinary person within seconds. The reason people called the Lapillions a cursed family wasn't just a rumor. It was real. Then Paris Shady finally pieced everything together. Earlier, she had accidentally scratched the Duke's hand. His blood stained her ring. Later, out of habit, she bit her fingernails. Without realizing it, she swallowed traces of the Duke's poisonous blood. That was what killed her. Believing she was dead, Therdio's men prepared her burial. But instead of staying dead, she came back to life. The revelation stunned even the Duke. No ordinary person could survive Lapillion blood. To confirm what he had witnessed, Thirdio deliberately exposed her to his blood a second time. He needed to know whether the first incident had been a coincidence. The Duke finally revealed why he had rejected her proposal in the first place. Anyone connected to the Lapillion family risked being dragged into their deadly curse. But now, after discovering Paris Shady's impossible immunity, he could no longer ignore her offer. The Duke looked directly at her. For just 1 year. I shall need you to be my wife. Paris Shady froze. The man who had rejected her proposal was now accepting it himself. Standing before her father's grave, Paris Shady made a decision. This time, she wouldn't be a victim. When her stepmother, Raina, and Schiff approached her, they expected the same obedient Paris Shady they had always manipulated. Instead, she shocked them. Paris Shady announced that she was marrying Grand Duke Thirdio Lapillion. Then she broke off her engagement with Schiff. Before anyone could recover, she revealed that she had already appointed a new representative to manage her estate. Her stepmother and Raina were banned from the main residence. And Schiff was no longer welcome on the property. The three stood frozen as Paris Shady walked away. For the first time, she had taken something from them. And it was only the beginning. Soon afterward, Paris Shady finalized her agreement with Thirdio. To the public, it looked like a grand romance. In reality, it was a 1-year contract marriage. Paris Shady would become the Grand Duke's wife. In return, Thirdio would investigate the mysterious immunity that allowed her to survive the deadly poison in Lapillion blood. Just 3 days later, the wedding was over. The ceremony was extravagant, but everything had been arranged in such a hurry that Paris Shady barely had time to process what was happening. As she followed Thirdio through the estate, he unexpectedly asked whether she would consider extending their contract. Paris Shady immediately rejected the idea in her mind. Externally, she says, I will surely give it some thought. But another thought continued bothering her. Before her death, Schiff had claimed she was killed by a curse. The agony she experienced that night felt identical to the pain caused by Lapillion blood. The similarity was too great to ignore. Could the two be connected? Unable to stop herself, Paris Shady asked a reckless question. Did the Lapillions sell their poisonous blood? Thirdio stared at her as if she had lost her mind. Embarrassed, Paris Shady quickly apologized and dropped the subject. Still, the question remained. If Lapillion blood and the curse felt identical, then what had really killed her? Before she could think further, a voice suddenly rang out. Thirdio Lapillion. Both of them turned. Paris Shady's eyes widened. Standing before them was the very princess the Emperor wanted Thirdio to marry. The 4th Imperial Princess, Dodolia Castor. Ignoring everyone around her, she asked Theo if the rumors were true. Had he really gotten married? Then she shocked the crowd. No one can love you as much as I do. The princess openly declared that Theo belonged to her and her alone. The surrounding nobles immediately began whispering. Before the situation could spiral further, a red-haired woman stepped forward and reminded the princess that Theo was now a married man and that the entire ballroom was watching. Realizing the attention she was attracting, the princess fell silent. Theo used the opportunity to leave with Parashady. But as they walked away, the princess shouted after him, "I can never live without you. And you can't be happy without me either." Parashady was getting the chills. She pleaded with the princess in her thoughts to wait for 1 year. Later, inside a carriage, Parashady learned the identity of the woman who had saved them. She was Theo's older sister, Saoirse Lepillion. After introducing herself, Saoirse immediately asked the question Parashady feared most. "Why did you marry Theo?" Parashady froze. Before she could answer, Theo calmly replied, "It was love at first sight." Saoirse laughed. She called the excuse ridiculous and pointed out that everyone already knew Theo had rushed into marriage to avoid marrying the emperor's daughter. The atmosphere inside the carriage instantly became tense. Desperate to escape the awkward silence, Parashady noticed how uncomfortable Saoirse's heavy dress looked. Trying to let some air inside, she cracked open the carriage window. A sudden gust of wind rushed in. The carriage jolted violently. Parashady lost her balance and crashed directly into Theo. Panicking, she immediately apologized. But when she pulled away, she noticed Theo's eyes glowing red. Before either of them could react, Saoirse burst into laughter. It was the first time she had ever seen Theo so flustered. By the end of the journey, Saoirse admitted something surprising. "I have to admit, Theo's new wife is quite amusing." For the first time since meeting the intimidating Lepillion family, Parashady felt the atmosphere begin to soften. The moment Parashady, Theo, and Saoirse arrived at the Lepillion estate, they were greeted by chaos. At the center of the commotion stood Schiff, Parashady's former fiancé. Knowing exactly whose territory he was standing in, Schiff openly mocked the Lepillion family and insulted them in front of everyone. Unfortunately for him, Cepheus Lepillion was listening. Theo's young nephew. Despite being only 9 years old, the boy carried himself like a true Lepillion. The moment Schiff crossed the line, Cepheus snapped. He drew his sword and pointed it directly at the noble. "If death is what you want, I shall gladly grant it to you. This is your punishment for insulting my family name." The crowd immediately panicked. But before the blade could fall, Theo stepped forward and grabbed Cepheus's arm. The Grand Duke stopped the attack before blood could be spilled. At that moment, Parashady stepped into the confrontation. Instead of backing down, Schiff desperately begged for a chance to speak with her. "We need to talk." Parashady's answer was immediate. "I don't love you anymore." The words hit Schiff like a knife. His face twisted with anger. Then he shouted that a festival would soon be held and that the Night Bachelor's parade would take place there. "I'll be there too. Come and see me." Parashady was stunned. Theo had heard enough. "I cannot bear to listen to this imbecile any longer. Do you wish to be stripped of the station you hold so dear?" The threat instantly drained the color from Schiff's face. Moments later, guards seized him and dragged him away. Even then, Schiff refused to give up. As he was hauled from the estate, he continued shouting. He reminded Parashady of the tree where they used to meet every day and swore he would be waiting for her there. The entire scene left Parashady mortified. Everyone had witnessed it. As the crowd dispersed, Theo quietly asked a question. "Is that the man you mentioned before? The one who tried to kill you?" Parashady silently confirmed it. Later that evening, she waited inside the mansion while Theo held a private meeting with Cepheus. Hours passed. A lavish dinner was prepared, and the sheer scale of it overwhelmed her. But Parashady couldn't relax. She never expected Schiff to follow her all the way to the Lepillion estate. After everything that had happened outside, she felt increasingly anxious about facing Theo and his family. The servants formally introduced themselves and paid their respects. Eventually, Theo joined her for dinner. Trying to break the awkward silence, Parashady asked about Cepheus. Theo explained that the boy had refused to eat because he insisted he wasn't hungry. When she learned he was only 9 years old, a question slipped out before she could stop herself. "Is he your son?" The moment the words left her mouth, she regretted them. Theo calmly corrected her. Cepheus wasn't his son. He was the son of Theo's older brother. Parashady immediately realized her mistake. The resemblance between them had led her to the wrong conclusion. Then she asked about Theo's brother. Theo's answer was short. "My brother is dead." Parashady froze. Theo continued. After his brother's death, Cepheus's mother abandoned the child and disappeared. Since then, Theo had raised the boy himself and even named him his heir. The revelation shocked Parashady. The Lapillian family was famous throughout the empire, yet she had never heard a single rumor about any of this. Then Theo revealed something else. He planned to send Cepheus back to the countryside. The atmosphere instantly turned cold. Unable to endure the tension any longer, Parashady excused herself and left the dining room. As she wandered through the mansion alone, regret weighed heavily on her mind. Her thoughts always returned to Cepheus. After everything that boy had suffered, was he really okay? Parashady spotted a maid carrying food through the mansion late at night. The meal was meant for Cepheus. But after being scolded for hours, the boy had locked himself in his room and refused to come out. Instead of leaving it to the servants, Parashady took the tray herself. When she finally reached his room, the door slowly opened. Inside, Cepheus sat alone beneath a blanket. Parashady tried introducing herself properly, hoping to start over. But the boy immediately pushed her away. He accused her of being just like everyone else. According to him, she was only pretending to be kind because she wanted Theo's approval. Then he attacked her where it hurt most. If he were in her position, he said, he would be too ashamed to even show his face after the embarrassing scene with Schiff. Parashady couldn't answer. She simply listened as the boy vented all of his frustration. Eventually, Cepheus told her to leave. But just as she was about to go, she noticed something. His eyes were red. He had been crying. Without thinking, Parashady gently touched his face. The unexpected gesture completely stunned him. For the first time, the angry boy looked vulnerable. Embarrassed, Parashady quickly apologized and turned to leave. But before she could go, Cepheus grabbed her dress. For a brief moment, it seemed like he wanted to say something. Instead, he pushed her away. "I don't need your concern." Then he slammed the door shut. Not long afterward, Parashady received another shock. The servants informed her that it was time to prepare for the consummation of her marriage. Only then did she realize she had completely forgotten about that problem. When she entered the room, she found Theo waiting inside. The awkward atmosphere was unbearable. Parashady immediately suggested sleeping separately. But Theo refused. If they wanted everyone to believe the marriage was real, they needed to continue sharing the same room. Fortunately, he made one thing perfectly clear. He had no intention of forcing himself on her. Relieved, Parashady finally agreed. Later that night, neither of them could sleep. During their conversation, Theo revealed something surprising. Saoirse, his sister, had once been the head of the Lapillian family. But after losing her loved ones to the family curse, she became unable to carry the burden alone and eventually handed the title over to him. Theo admitted he had spent years worrying about her. Only recently had she begun stepping back into the world again. For the first time, Parashady realized how deeply the Lapillians cared about one another. And that realization left her uneasy. Lying awake beside Theo, her thoughts drifted back to the people responsible for her death. Her stepmother, Reyna, Schiff. The revenge that had pushed her into this marriage suddenly felt far less certain. What if she hadn't traveled back in time at all? What if everything happening now was nothing more than a coincidence? What if she had chosen the wrong path? The doubts continued piling up until exhaustion finally overcame her. As she drifted to sleep, a quiet sniffle broke the silence. Theo turned toward her. And for the first time, he saw Parashady asleep. The next morning brought another surprise. Theo announced that Cepheus would be sent back to the countryside immediately. The boy desperately apologized for his behavior and begged to stay. He promised he would never cause trouble again. But Theo refused. He insisted Cepheus had endangered both the family and Parashady and ordered him to leave. Watching the exchange, Parashady couldn't understand Theo at all. He had named Cepheus his heir. So why did he treat the boy like this? Unable to stay silent, she pointed out that Cepheus hadn't even finished his meals. But Theo remained firm and left for the palace. After his departure, Parashady toured the estate with Theo's longtime aide, Bach Moulton. Eventually, she asked the question that had been bothering her. Does Theo dislike Cepheus? Moulton immediately shook his head. The truth was the complete opposite. According to him, Cepheus's blood was far more toxic than that of other Lapillians. Whenever his condition worsened, the poison caused him tremendous pain. That was the real reason Theo kept sending him back to the countryside. Not punishment. Protection. Theo wanted Cepheus somewhere he could rest and recover safely. Moulton assured her that Theo cared deeply about the boy. The problem was that Theo's actions always seemed to say the opposite of what he truly felt. Even when trying to help Cepheus, he only made the child believe he was unwanted. The revelation left Parashady deep in thought. The Grand Duke clearly loved Cepheus, yet everything he did only pushed the boy further away. As she wondered why Theo never simply told him the truth, a loud shattering noise echoed through the mansion. A scream followed immediately after. Parashady and Molten turned toward the sound in shock. Cepheus had locked himself inside his room. In a fit of anger, he smashed furniture, destroyed decorations, and badly injured his hand. Blood covered the room, but he refused to let anyone help him. The servants panicked. Parashady immediately rushed toward his room, but Molten stopped her. Cepheus was wounded, and coming into contact with the Lepillian's blood was dangerous. Still, Parashady refused to back down. Right now, she was the only person who could help him. As she opens the door, Cepheus immediately reacts. "Don't come in here." An object flies through the air and strikes Parashady in the forehead. Startled, she stumbles as the ornament rolls across the floor. Inside the room, furniture and decorations lie shattered everywhere. Cepheus is sitting on the floor amidst the wreckage. His red eyes are filled with anger and distress. When he sees Parashady, he asks why she is there. His breathing is uneven. Then, with obvious bitterness, he accuses her of mocking him. He shouts that he told her not to bother herself with him. Parashady places a hand over the spot where she was hit and quietly surveys the room. Blood stains the floor among the broken furniture. She realizes that much of the blood belongs to Cepheus. Approaching him carefully, she tells him she is not trying to mock him. She asks him to let her see his injured hand. Cepheus refuses. He abruptly shoves her away. Parashady stumbles backward. At that moment, Cepheus freezes. A small cut has opened on Parashady's forehead where the ornament struck her. Blood begins running down her face. The sight shocks him. His anger vanishes instantly. He stares at her in disbelief. "You're bleeding." Parashady touches her forehead and realizes he is right. Cepheus lowers his head. His voice becomes small and uncertain. He apologizes and begs her not to tell the Grand Duke about what happened. He fears the Grand Duke will throw him out. Parashady is surprised by the sudden change in his behavior. Just moments ago he had been furious, but now he seems frightened and remorseful. Looking at him more closely, she notices how anxious and vulnerable he appears. Gently, she tells him to relax. She promises that she will not tell the Grand Duke about the incident. Cepheus slowly calms down. Parashady begins treating his injured hand. After examining the wound, she concludes that it is not as serious as it first appeared. The injury will heal soon. However, she remains concerned about his emotional state and the way he acted before she arrived. As she finishes tending to him, she quietly wonders what could have driven him into such a violent outburst. Cepheus lowers his head after apologizing for injuring Parashady. He is terrified that the Grand Duke will abandon him if he learns what happened. Parashady notices how afraid he is and realizes that he fears the Grand Duke's rejection more than anything else. She decides that perhaps she can help the two of them understand each other better. She suggests that if Cepheus intends to remain at the estate, he should try to speak honestly with the Grand Duke. She tells him that she can help. Cepheus immediately rejects the idea. He asks why she would help him at all. Suspicious and defensive, he assumes she is only doing it to gain favor with the Grand Duke. He warns her that trying to earn his gratitude is pointless because the Grand Duke already sees him as useless. According to Cepheus, everyone in the estate knows it. Even the servants are aware that the Grand Duke considers him worthless, so there is no reason for anyone to help him. Parashady quietly asks whether the Grand Duke himself ever said those things. Cepheus cannot answer. Seeing his reaction, Parashady suddenly reaches out and pinches his cheek. The unexpected gesture shocks him. As he struggles and demands to be released, Parashady firmly tells him that yesterday she was able to get that annoying night shift out of her sight. It was all thanks to Cepheus. Cepheus tries to deny it and insists that everything was done by the Grand Duke. Parashady refuses to accept that answer. Even if it was partly true, she tells him to stop denying his own efforts. She explains that she originally thought the same thing everyone else did, but seeing him like this changed her mind. Hurting his own body will accomplish nothing. The words catch Cepheus off guard. He slowly becomes quiet and listens. Parashady continues speaking to him gently but firmly. She tells him that after the Grand Duke returns, he should talk honestly with him instead of assuming the worst. Suddenly, Cepheus noticed her forehead. Alarmed, he touches her forehead and realizes the cut has opened. She dismisses it and says it is nothing serious. Cepheus stares at her in disbelief. To him, bleeding is the opposite of being fine. Still concerned, he reaches up and carefully touches her forehead. Parashady smiles and admits that perhaps he is right. For a brief moment, Cepheus seems calmer than before. Then a troubling thought crosses his mind. He asks whether Parashady understands what the blood of the Lapillion family can do. Parashady calmly replies that she knows about it and that the family's blood does not kill her. The answer leaves Cepheus stunned. He asks if she is serious. Parashady confirms that she is completely fine. Before she can explain further, blood starts dripping down from her nose. Her heart begins pounding violently. A strange pain spreads through her. She becomes frightened and confused, unable to understand that none of Cepheus' blood has entered her mouth. Yet the pain continues. The pain is even worse than the time she consumed the Grand Duke's blood. As her heartbeat grows louder and stronger, a terrifying possibility enters her mind. She begins to wonder if the reaction is somehow connected to his injury. Cepheus is alarmed and immediately asks what is wrong. Despite the agony, Parashady insists that she is fine. At the same time, blood continues dripping from the wound on her forehead. She forces herself to stay conscious, thinking that if she collapses now, she will only frighten the boy even more. But eventually, her body reached its limit. Her vision blurred, and she collapsed. For the first time, genuine fear appeared on Cepheus' face. Just then, a voice suddenly echoed through the room. "Your Grace." Then, to everyone's disbelief, Parashady opened her eyes. She was alive. Theo explained that this wasn't the first time she had survived contact with Lapillion blood. For some unknown reason, the family's poison simply didn't affect her. But Theo wasn't relieved. He immediately scolded Parashady for acting recklessly. Even if she was immune, she could have died. Parashady quietly apologized. Then Theo turned towards Cepheus. The boy lowered his head, expecting punishment. Theo told him that now he finally understood how a careless action could cost someone their life. The words hit Cepheus hard. Overcome with guilt, he admitted that Theo was right. He apologized and quietly accepted that he would return to the countryside. Watching the exchange, Parashady finally understood the real problem. Theo cared deeply about Cepheus. But everything he said pushed the boy further away. And Cepheus, convinced he was unwanted, could never see Theo's true intentions. Before anyone could stop her, Parashady grabbed Cepheus. She told him to stop running away and say what he truly wanted. The room fell silent. Then Parashady did something no one else dared to do. She confronted the Grand Duke himself. If his misunderstanding led him to make this mistake, then the fault isn't entirely his. It's yours for never teaching him properly. Everyone froze. Theo stared at her in disbelief. Cepheus had already admitted that he didn't want to be alone. How could she ignore that? She asked Theo a simple question. Did he really intend to keep sending Cepheus away for the rest of his life? Even Molten quietly admitted she had a point. Parashady pleaded with Theo. If he truly cared about Cepheus, then he should listen to what the boy wanted. Theo warned her that another accident like this could happen again. Parashady answered that she wasn't completely safe around him either. But if everyone was careful, they could prevent it. For a long moment, nobody spoke. Then Theo finally sighed. He called for Cepheus. The boy nervously stepped forward. Theo asked whether there was anything he needed from the countryside. Confused, Cepheus answered no. Then Theo asked him to keep Parashady's immunity to Lapillion blood a secret. Cepheus immediately agreed. And with that, Theo made his decision. He ordered the servants to prepare Cepheus's room. The boy wasn't being sent away. He was staying. As Molten led him away to prepare new clothes, Cepheus could hardly believe what had happened. For the first time in a long while, he looked genuinely happy. After he left, Theo asked Parashady why she had fought so hard for him. After a brief silence, she admitted the truth. Cepheus reminded her of herself. Later, Parashady reflected on everything that had happened. She remembered Cepheus's blood entering the wound on her forehead without harming her. Yet in her previous life, Theo's blood had killed her. The contradiction made no sense. Somewhere, she was missing a piece of the puzzle. Since the incident with Cepheus, Parashady has slowly begun adapting to life in the Grand Duke Lapillion's manor. She dedicates herself to learning how the household functions, believing that understanding the estate and building social connections will help her once her marriage contract eventually ends. Although the servants are polite, they become visibly surprised whenever she tries to involve herself in the family's affairs. Paris Shady understands their reaction. From their perspective, she is the new Grand Duchess, and they didn't like her meddling with their affairs. Fortunately, Moulton has become much kinder to her after the Cepheus incident and willingly helps her learn the household's work. She notices that he had been genuinely worried when she briefly died from the poison, and she decides that once they become closer, she will ask him about the affairs happening back in her father's house. First, she learns this residence has been owned by the Lapillians ever since they rose to become dukes. And the Grand Duke stays in their lands farther away. The residence in the capital is managed by the Moultons' eldest son, Bach. Bach and Grand Duke usually communicate via letters. As the Emperor is calling the Grand Duke very frequently, he is currently staying in the capital. He often returns home very late at night, likely because of political duties made even more complicated by his marriage to Paris Shady. Second, she discovers that almost no servants know about the Lapillian family's mysterious curse. Only Bach and a handful of the direct descendants are aware of its existence. She also learns that Bach's youngest daughter recently became an imperial knight, something that fills him with immense pride because she brought honor to the family. Third, Paris Shady realizes that the Grand Duke is taking the investigation into her immunity very seriously. Doctors regularly visit to collect samples of her blood in hopes of discovering why the Lapillians' deadly poison has no effect on her. She quietly wonders whether these tests will eventually uncover the truth behind her unusual resistance. Since the Grand Duke always comes home late, she has not had the chance to ask him about the research herself. Despite everything, Paris Shady begins feeling more comfortable in the manor. She even discovers that the couch in her room is softer than the bed she had back at her family's home, making it surprisingly easy to fall asleep there. Still, she reminds herself that she cannot become complacent. She must learn everything she can while she remains with the Lapillians, so she can eventually support herself after the contract marriage ends. Little by little, the fear she carried from her previous life begins to fade, and she believes that if she works hard enough, she may one day be able to manage her own household without depending on anyone. One day, while the Paris Shady is working, Moulton informs her that visitors have arrived requesting an audience. The story shifts to Paris Shady receiving unexpected guests. Her stepmother and Reina have come to visit her. Their arrival immediately makes Paris Shady uneasy. She knows they are only behaving politely because they are here to talk about the uncle who is managing the estate. She calmly asks them why they have come. Before anyone else can speak, her stepmother suddenly begins crying. With tears streaming down her face, she apologizes for failing to congratulate her on her marriage to the Grand Duke and repeatedly begs for forgiveness. Paris Shady is stunned. The woman standing before her appears to be a completely different person from the cruel stepmother she remembers. She immediately begins questioning whether this display is genuine or merely another performance designed to deceive her. As she hurriedly rises from her seat to excuse herself, she accidentally knocks over the tea on the table. The cup crashes to the floor, and hot tea splashes across the table and onto her stepmother's hand. Reina rushes to her mother's side in panic, asking whether she is hurt. Instead of blaming Paris Shady, her stepmother gently asks whether Paris Shady herself is all right. She calmly instructs Reina to summon the maid so everything can be taken care of. Seeing her stepmother's concern, Paris Shady is shaken. She begins questioning everything. Was her hatred real, or had she misunderstood it all? As doubt consumes her, she wonders if her memories of being murdered and traveling back in time were nothing more than a nightmare, leaving her unable to tell reality from illusion. Rumors were already spreading through the estate. Some claimed Paris Shady had driven away her own family to secure her father's inheritance. Others whispered that she already held influence over the Grand Duke. One maid even suggested she had charmed Theo with her beauty. Cepheus overheard every word. The gossip only became worse when the servants began discussing her marriage. They speculated about her sharing a room with Theo and whether their marriage had already been consummated. Then one maid casually mentioned something unexpected. Perhaps the marriage had succeeded in ruining the Emperor's plan to marry Princess Dodolia to Theo. Unfortunately for the maid, Cepheus has overheard everything. He demands, "What do you mean by that?" The servants immediately fell silent. Next to Paris Shady, Her stepmother explains that rumors have spread throughout society claiming Paris Shady has thrown them out just to be the sole heir of her father's fortune. Although she insists she knows Paris Shady would never do such a thing. She also hints that they skipped certain marriage steps, such as the exchange of wedding gifts. Paris Shady thinks she is indirectly asking for money. Then Raina shamelessly asks if she and her mother can move into the main residence building. She promised she won't bother the uncle who is taking care of the entire estate. As the demands pile up, Paris Shady suddenly feels something strange. Her chest tightens, her vision blurs, and the room becomes suffocating. Before she can respond, Raina casually remarks that Schiff still seems very interested in Paris Shady. The comment immediately catches Selfie's attention. He enters the room and says, "I was wondering if you were here to ask for a handout, but what you just said. Are you challenging His Grace's name?" Seeing Paris Shady struggling to breathe, he rushes to comfort her and asks, "What have they done to you?" Raina replies, "We didn't do anything." The stepmother added, "I only came to see my daughter, my lord." Selphie asks Paris Shady, "Shall I have them removed?" Paris Shady calmly says, "Forgive me, but I am feeling unwell. I would like to ask you to leave, please." The moment they were gone, Paris Shady's condition improved. She thanks Selphie for helping her. As Selphie escorts her back to her room, her mind keeps drifting back to the incident. Have I really gone in the past, or was it just a dream? To snap her out of her thoughts, Selphie reveals that a grand imperial festival is approaching. The entire empire celebrates it every spring, but the news sends a chill down Paris Shady's spine. She remembers this festival from her previous life. It wasn't just a celebration. It was the night she died. As fireworks from her memories fill her mind, Paris Shady realizes that the event that led to her death is approaching once again. At the other part of the estate, we see Grand Duke Theo receiving yet another letter from the princess. Despite rejecting every one of them, the letters keep arriving, but Theo refuses to even read them. While discussing household matters with his butler, Theo learns that Paris Shady's family visited earlier that day. The moment he hears it, he orders that they be permanently banned from seeing the Grand Duchess again. The butler then carefully asks whether Theo still plans to divorce Paris Shady. Instead of answering, Theo remains silent. Later that night, a violent storm rages outside the Lapillion estate. Unable to sleep, Theo is haunted by horrifying memories stained with blood. The nightmare reminds him of the curse that has plagued the Lapillion family for generations. As he wanders through the estate, he eventually arrives outside Paris Shady's room and finds her in terrible condition. Pale, drenched in sweat, and trapped in a nightmare, she struggles helplessly in her sleep. Then, in a faint voice, she whispers, "Help me." Hearing those words, Theo immediately rushes to her side. He carries her to bed and stays with her as she trembles in fear. When Paris Shady instinctively grabs onto him, Theo doesn't pull away. Instead, he gently reassures her. "In this house, no one can hurt you." Slowly, Paris Shady calms down and drifts into a peaceful sleep. As the storm continues to rage outside, Theo remains by her side, silently watching over her. The next morning, Paris Shady wakes up and immediately realizes something is different. Instead of sleeping on the couch, she finds herself lying comfortably in bed. As memories of last night return, she can't help but remember Theo carrying her to bed and staying by her side while she struggled through her nightmare. Just thinking about it leaves her flustered. At breakfast, Paris Shady tries her best to act normal, but her thoughts are still stuck on the previous night. Then Theo suddenly turns to Selphie and asks a surprising question. Would he like to attend school while they're staying in the capital? The question catches Selphie completely off guard. For years, he believed attending school was impossible because of his condition. Even though he desperately wants to go, he hesitates, worried that he might hurt someone again. But Theo tells him that he can't avoid people forever. As the future heir of the Lapillion family, he must learn how to live among others and take responsibility for his actions. After hearing those words, Selphie finally agrees. Seeing how excited he is, Paris Shady realizes just how much this opportunity means to him. Later, Paris Shady is introduced to her new companion, Rebecca Knights, the daughter of Baron Knights. What surprises Paris Shady isn't Rebecca's background, but the fact that she willingly applied for the position in the first place. After all, rumors are spreading throughout noble society that Paris Shady could be divorced at any moment. Yet Rebecca doesn't seem bothered by the rumors at all. Instead, she cheerfully introduces herself and repeatedly expresses how honored she is to serve the Grand Duchess. Her bright personality quickly puts Parashady at ease. As they prepare to head out for the day, Parashady's thoughts suddenly drift back to her previous life. She remembers the uneasy feeling she always experiences whenever she sees her stepmother and Reina. Then another memory surfaces. The final moments before her death. She recalls hearing someone say that they spent a fortune to find a way to kill her without leaving any trace. Even worse, they claimed the mysterious curse was involved. Determined to uncover the truth, Parashady makes a silent promise to herself. She will find out how she died. And she will uncover the secret behind the curse Schiff warned her about. Later, while reviewing reports with the estate officials and Moulton, Parashady notices that this year's harvest is better than expected. Seeing an opportunity to help the people, she suggests releasing some of the surplus grain. The estate official is surprised by her proposal and warns that crop prices can fluctuate, but before the discussion can continue, an urgent matter interrupts the meeting. Moulton requested Parashady to continue this meeting later. Parashady accepts his request and leaves the estate with Rebecca. During the carriage ride, Rebecca notices a locked chest and curiously asks what is inside. It's a donation for the church, Parashady explains. The answer catches Rebecca's attention. The Lapillion family has secretly donated large sums to the church for years, yet they never publicize it. Parashady herself finds it strange. If people knew about their generosity, the family's reputation would improve considerably. Yet they have always kept it as a private donation. As they travel through the capital, the city is already overflowing with preparations for the upcoming festival. Merchants crowd the streets, decorations cover the buildings, and the entire city buzzes with excitement. Upon arriving at the church, she delivers the donation and heads straight for the library. Officially, she is there to browse books. In reality, she wants to investigate the curse. The problem is that openly asking questions about curses could easily backfire. People already see her as the infamous new Grand Duchess who drove her family out and seduced the Grand Duke. If she suddenly starts asking about dark magic, it would only make those rumors worse. So instead, Parashady quietly searches through the church library on her own. Unable to ask directly, she picks up a book titled May I Curse You? And casually approaches the priests. Isn't this book about dark magic? Isn't that heretical? The question immediately sends the priests into a panic. Are you sure it's okay for such a book to be in the church library? What if people commit murder after reading this? The Reverend quickly explains that spells only exist in historical records now and that magic disappeared hundreds of years ago. When Parashady continues asking questions, the priests insist that not every curse should be considered dark magic. Then the associate priest accidentally blurts out, "Magic has gone for hundreds of years now, and the definition of curse is broad, so you can't label every curse as dark magic either. Besides, divine punishment is also God's curse." Before he can finish, the Reverend immediately smacks him and orders him to stop talking. But the damage is already done. That single sentence lodges itself firmly in Parashady's mind. The Reverend is confused about whether she was testing them. After leaving the church, she reflects on her investigation. Before coming here, she had already searched pharmacies across the city, trying to learn whether poison could have caused her death. Yet every lead ended the same way. No poison could kill someone without leaving a trace. If it wasn't poison and it wasn't dark magic, then what was it? Then the priest's words echo in her head once again. Divine punishment is also God's curse. A chilling possibility suddenly forms in her mind. If divine punishment can be considered a curse, could the Lapillion family's curse actually be a form of divine punishment? The thought is so dangerous that Parashady immediately decides to keep it to herself. We see an elite knight next to her, thinking about what she is up to. Actually, Theo has secretly given one of his elite knights a new order. You shall guard the Grand Duchess from now on. The knight is stunned. But as an elite knight, my duty is to guard your grace. Theo's response is immediate. She's very important. Unable to argue any further, the knight begins secretly following Parashady through the city. As he watches her move from place to place, he grows increasingly confused about what exactly she's investigating. Then she suddenly stops in front of a small fish bread shop. Confused, the knight watches from nearby, unable to understand why the Grand Duchess would come to such a place. The answer is much simpler than he expected. I want to buy some snacks for Selphie. I can't return empty-handed. Remembering how much Selphie seemed to enjoy sweets, Parashady decides to buy fish bread for him. As they wait, Parashady suddenly notices something. Lady Rebecca still hasn't returned. Rebecca had left earlier to run an errand, but she still hasn't come back. The knight tries to reassure her. I'm sure it's because this place is rather popular. But despite his explanation, Parashady can't shake the uneasy feeling growing inside her. The longer she waits, the stronger that feeling becomes. Eventually, the knight suggests they leave. This is taking too long. I think it's best you go to the carriage. But before he can finish, Parashady's eyes suddenly widen. She notices something. Without a word, she immediately breaks into a run. The knight freezes in shock. Your Grace. Ignoring his calls, Parashady races through the crowded street, driven by a feeling she cannot ignore. Something is wrong. And whatever it is, she's already running straight toward it. Suddenly, Parashady spots a woman stepping into the path of a speeding horse cart. It is Saoirse, older sister of Theo. Completely unaware of the danger around her, Saoirse is focused on someone in the distance. Believing she has finally found her husband and son, who have actually died because of a curse. She follows them through the crowd without paying attention to the road. Realizing what's about to happen, Parashady immediately rushes forward. Wait. Without hesitation, she grabs Saoirse and pulls her away from the cart's path. Look out. The two women crash onto the ground as the horse cart races past only moments later. I am so sorry. The driver hurriedly apologizes while people gather around the scene. Are you all right? As Saoirse regains her senses, she looks back toward the people she had been chasing. But then her expression changes. The man and child she saw weren't her husband and son at all. They were complete strangers. Meanwhile, Saoirse slowly lifts her head as the murmurs of the crowd fill the air. To make her comfortable, Parashady puts her hat on Saoirse's head. Then Saoirse realizes she has been saved by Parashady. As the knight recognized Saoirse, she stood up swiftly and told Parashady, "Don't tell anyone about what happened today." Leaving the stunned Parashady behind, Saoirse turns and walks away, while Parashady continues staring after her in disbelief. After saving Saoirse from the runaway horse cart, Parashady returns to the estate. As she reflects on the day's events, Parashady finds herself worrying about Saoirse. The woman had seemed deeply shaken after mistaking strangers for her deceased husband and son. A maid suddenly notices that Parashady's hat is missing. Your Grace, where is your hat? Oh, it blew away in the wind. Although the explanation satisfies the others, Parashady remembers exactly what happened. To comfort Saoirse after the accident, she had quietly placed her own hat on her head before they parted ways. As she sits alone drinking tea, she continues wondering whether Saoirse is all right. Before long, Selphie rushes into the room. Did you hurt your hand? Worried after hearing about the accident, he immediately checks on her condition. Parashady reassures him that she is fine, and then asks about his plans for school registration. Selphie explains that he only needs to register and still has a few days before classes begin. After a moment of hesitation, he nervously asks, "If it's okay with you, could you come with me?" Embarrassed by his own request, he quickly adds that she doesn't have to if she's busy. Parashady smiles, pats his head, and agrees. Let's go together. The simple gesture leaves Selphie blushing with happiness. Later that evening, Parashady encounters Theo. To her surprise, Theo already knows about her meeting with Saoirse. I hear you saw Saoirse today. Startled, Parashady immediately realizes the knight assigned to follow her must have reported everything. Theo asks what happened, and Parashady carefully explains that they simply ran into each other. Realizing that Saoirse apparently wanted to keep the incident secret, Parashady avoids mentioning the details. The conversation then shifts to Selphie's school registration. Thinking it would be helpful, Parashady suggests Theo accompany Selphie to school. It would be better if Selphie went with someone who knows their way around the school. You went there too. Theo quietly looks away before responding. I did not go to school. The answer catches Parashady completely off guard. Theo dismisses the matter, saying, the instructors can take good care of that. He prepares to leave, but another topic suddenly comes to mind. I hear you're looking for a lawyer. Caught off guard, Parashady admits that it's true. Ever since deciding to investigate the circumstances surrounding her death, she has been searching for someone knowledgeable enough to help her uncover information from the past. Without hesitation, Theo responds. Just wait. I shall look for a lawyer for you myself. The unexpected offer leaves Parashady speechless. The Grand Duke himself is going to find a lawyer for her? She can hardly believe what she just heard. As Theo turns to leave, Parashady quietly thanks him. Thank you. Wanting to stop him before he walks away, she calls out, wait. But when Theo turns back, she suddenly forgets what she wanted to say. The room falls silent as Parashady struggles to find the words. Finally, after an awkward pause, she blurts out, "Please, it's your turn to sleep in the bed tonight, Your Grace." Today feels unusually peaceful for Parashady. As she watches Selphie prepare for school registration, she can't help but smile. The boy is excited, but one problem remains. Parashady had promised to accompany him. However, Theo suddenly schedules a meeting with the lawyer he found for her and refuses to postpone it. Seeing Selphie's disappointment, Parashady apologizes. "Forgive me, Selphie. I know I promised to go with you." But Selphie quickly reassures her. "Don't worry. I'll be fine. I'll go straight to school once it's done." Even so, Parashady notices that something is wrong. "You're unwell." When she places a hand on his forehead, she discovers he has a mild fever. "It's just a cold. And it's not even that bad." Selphie insists he's fine and hurries into the carriage, eager to begin his new life at school. As the carriage leaves, Parashady watches him go, still worried. He still has a mild fever. Is it really okay to send him off like this? With Selphie gone, Parashady heads to meet the lawyer Theo arranged for her. Outside the lawyer's office, she and Rebecca admit they barely understood anything from the meeting. Still, Parashady learns something important. There are only 3 legal reasons she could lose her inheritance. The will was forged, she used the will to threaten someone, or she murdered her father. None of those apply to her. But the constant rumors surrounding her reputation make her uneasy. I'd better be prepared for every possibility. As she leaves, she reflects on the reports she keeps receiving about people gossiping about her. If she wants to survive this life, she can't simply ignore society forever. It's my responsibility to make things better. She even considers attending social events or reconnecting with old acquaintances. After the meeting, Parashady, Rebecca, and the knight wait outside for their carriage. The carriage is late. The streets are unusually crowded, and people everywhere seem focused on something happening nearby. When Parashady asks why, the knight explains. They're erecting a statue of His Grace. People have likely gathered to watch. The words hit Parashady like a bolt of lightning. Statue? A forgotten memory suddenly resurfaces. Then, a massive explosion erupts in the distance. Everyone freezes in shock as debris blasts into the air. Parashady stares at the scene, her eyes widening. Now she remembers. I know what that statue was. Without another word, she suddenly takes off running. We see a flashback where Schiff is grabbing her hand and running alongside her. Hurry! We might miss it if we're late. Parashady, completely confused by the urgency, struggles to keep up. Why? What's the rush? Schiff only looks back at her with a grin. He brings Parashady to see the broken pieces of the Grand Duke's statue. At present, members of the Lapillion family and their attendants are standing in front of the destroyed monument. His Grace's statue. The statue's been destroyed. I just heard something explode. People begin whispering among themselves, calling it an attack. One knight carefully observes the area before reporting. Fortunately, no one seems to have been injured in the explosion. The police will be here soon. We should leave, Your Grace. Others quickly agree. He's right. There are people watching. We should go, Your Grace. But Parashady barely hears them. As she stares at the destroyed statue, a memory resurfaces. After this, I saw. Suddenly, everything becomes clear. After the statue was destroyed, flyers fell from the sky. Sheets of paper begin drifting through the air exactly as she remembers. The papers flutter down across the square and land among the crowd. Parashady's eyes widen. Soon afterward, she leaves the square in a carriage with Rebecca. Parashady kept thinking. The scene was identical. Every detail matches the memory she had before. Even the broken pieces of the statue look exactly the same. A realization strikes her. So I wasn't mistaken. I did travel back in time. It wasn't a dream. Rebecca notices how shaken she looks. Your Grace, if I may, but are you sure you will be all right? Perhaps we should go back to the manor instead. Besides, there will be many nobles at the school. Parashady remains silent. She kept thinking about the fallen flyer, which attacked her, saying the second Grand Duchess chooses the power of the Lapillions over love with a knight bachelor. Parashady immediately recognizes the incident. The flyers I saw in my past life also attacked the Lapillions. But the content must have changed because I have become the Grand Duchess. Her thoughts drift toward the people whom she suspects are responsible. Her stepmother, Reina, and Schiff. At that moment, she thinks of Selfie and is determined to attend his school anyway. She assures Rebecca it won't take long to get him. I'll be fine. As Parashady continues walking through the academy grounds with Rebecca and their escort, she suddenly notices someone in the distance. A girl with long golden hair. The moment Parashady sees her face, she freezes. The girl before her is Princess Dodolia. Delpanil Academy, the most prestigious school in the capital, where nobles and even members of the royal family study. However, the moment she enters, she immediately feels uncomfortable. Even so, she didn't expect to run into Princess Dodolia and ended up sitting next to her. Whispers spread throughout the academy's reception hall as nobles quietly discuss the Grand Duchess. She gets a bit uncomfortable, but then thinks of Princess Dodolia, whom she hasn't seen since her wedding to the Grand Duke. Maybe Princess Dodolia is here to pick up her younger sister, the 7th princess, who is still going to the school. The noble women politely make conversation, mentioning that Selfie has returned to the capital and asking whether he has enrolled at the academy. Parashady answers honestly. I hope he can get along with the other students. An uncomfortable silence follows. Then one of the ladies brings up the subject everyone has been discussing. I saw some flyers scattered on every street on my way here. It turns out they're about you. A copy of the flyer is placed on the table. The same one attacking Parashady and the Lapillion family. Parashady immediately realizes the situation is worse than she thought. If the flyers have reached the academy, then they must already be spread throughout the entire capital. While everyone focuses on the scandal, Princess Dodolia suddenly speaks. I've been meaning to invite the Grand Duchess to the palace, you see. The announcement shocks everyone at the table. Your Highness. An invitation? Even Parashady is caught completely off guard. She's inviting me? The noble women eagerly encourage the idea and ask Parashady to accept. Then Dodolia makes an even more surprising offer. If you accept my invitation, I shall have any who gossip about the flyers arrested as a token of gratitude. For a moment, Parashady is speechless. The flyers are already spread across the entire capital. Punishing everyone who talks about them would mean targeting countless people. The offer is impossible. After a brief pause, Parashady politely declines. Thank you for the kind offer, Your Highness. But I'm afraid I must decline. It's getting late. Please excuse me. She rises from her seat and leaves the gathering. As Parashady walks away, Dodolia watches her quietly. Such a pity. I have so much to talk about with you. See you next time. A sly grin stretched across her face. Parashady clenched her hands. Something about her feels different. Later, she finally meets Selfie. The moment he arrives, he greets her with a bright smile, clearly excited after spending the day at school. Parashady apologizes for being late, explaining that there was much more to see than she had expected. When she asks how school was, Selfie casually replies that it was nothing special and that all schools are probably the same. Parashady quickly thinks that he has never attended school before, making his claim rather funny. Concerned about his condition, she asks whether he is feeling better. Selfie immediately assures her that he is much better and tells her not to worry. He then mentions that Bach left earlier because of an urgent appointment. Secretly, Selfie feels proud that Parashady noticed he was sick. She suspects that perhaps Selfie managed to trick Bach into leaving so he could spend more time with her. Meanwhile, Parashady recalls how overwhelmed and exhausted Bach had looked that morning. As evening approaches, Parashady suggests that they should return home because Selfie is still unwell. Selfie stubbornly insists that he is completely fine. As they leave the academy grounds, they suddenly notice a commotion among the crowd. People begin whispering and murmuring as someone approaches. Then they see him. The Grand Duke. The crowd immediately recognizes him and quietly watches as he walks toward them. Parashady is completely caught off guard. She had never expected to meet him there. Trying to remain composed, she remembers proper etiquette and recalls that in public she should address him by his first name. Nervously, she speaks. 30. What brought you here? The Grand Duke calmly replies that he did not expect to find her there either. Turning his attention to Selfie, he asks how school was. Selfie instantly lights up. It was great. Watching the interaction, Parashady becomes convinced that the Grand Duke must have come personally to pick up Selfie. Despite his cold personality, she finds the gesture surprisingly thoughtful. Curious, Selfie asks whether he had business at the academy. Before the Grand Duke can answer, Parashady quickly explains that he has come to take Selfie home. Selfie is stunned. What? The Grand Duke reaches out and pats Selfie on the head. Then, after examining him more carefully, his expression turns serious. You have a fever. He explains that he suspected something was wrong as soon as he saw Selfie's unusually red face. Selfie lowers his head in embarrassment and quietly insists that it is only a cold. He then dashes away towards the Grand Duke's carriage. He waves and shouts goodbye. He disappears into another carriage, leaving Paris Shady completely alone with the Grand Duke. She freezes. Her mind immediately fills with panic. You're leaving me alone with him? The atmosphere becomes painfully awkward. With no other choice, Paris Shady and the Grand Duke ride back together in the same carriage. Neither of them knows what to say. The silence stretches endlessly until Paris Shady finally gathers the courage to speak. But both of them spoke at the same time. Paris Shady allows Theo to go first. He tells her that he has heard about the flyers spreading throughout the capital. Then he reveals something important. The original article was supposed to expose their divorce. However, he prevented it from being published. Unfortunately, stopping the article may have only made the situation worse. Instead, someone released even more damaging rumors. The scandalous flyers now accuse Paris Shady of abandoning a relationship with a knight bachelor for enjoying the riches of Lepillion family. The Grand Duke apologizes sincerely. I'm truly sorry. Paris Shady lowers her head and asks, do you think it's the same person who broke the statue? He explains that all of the incidents happened at the same time, making it unlikely that separate groups were responsible. In his view, everything appears to be part of a single coordinated scheme. Then he assures her that he will handle the flyers himself. However, silencing the rumors throughout the capital will take much longer. Until things settle down, he advises her to stay at home and avoid public appearances. She agreed. She then asks whether he has discovered the person responsible for vandalizing the statues. The Grand Duke replies that he has not found the culprit yet and intends to investigate further. Paris Shady points out an odd detail. The statue of His Majesty was left completely untouched, while only the Grand Duke's statue was destroyed. The Grand Duke appears entirely unconcerned. He simply says that this is good enough for him. In his opinion, such a display only brings disgrace to his name anyway. Paris Shady is surprised by his reaction. Despite the obvious malicious intent behind the attack, he does not seem bothered at all. She recalls how everyone described him as a ruthless war fiend. Yet when Schiff barged into his home, the Grand Duke merely sent him away instead of killing him. To be honest, she had expected a much harsher response. The more she thinks about it, the more she realizes that the rumors surrounding him may not be true. At first, she believed he was hiding terrible secrets within the Lepillion family. Now she is no longer certain. Before she can gather her thoughts, the Grand Duke speaks. And you? Confused, she asks what he means. The Grand Duke reminds her that she seemed like she had something she wanted to say. Paris Shady suddenly remembers.